to share some memories also that you might have along the way. But I'm going to let Karen come up at this time and share some of her thoughts.
Decision making has never been an easy thing for our family. Well, no family is perfect. At one point in my life, I was struggling to find my purpose. History is a good teacher. So I sought wisdom in my grandmother Helga. That's my mother's Bessie, and her mom. And she told me that she too had actually struggled with finding her purpose in life. That was hard to imagine because she was such a strong woman. But she talked about how families have a strong imprint on who we become. She spoke of her father, who was a nobleman and an officer, and a man of titles and respect. And she spoke of her mother, a renowned opera singer, who gave command performances for royalty, and later even came to teach the fine arts at the University of Oregon. And the governess who helped educate her and her sisters in the arts and dance and literature and fluency even in multiple languages. And her sister Bessie, who my mother was named after, actually became one of the pioneers of modern dance and went on to teach choreography and dance in New York at multiple venues. And Grandma told me too that her family put a lot of pressure on her to make her mark. She performed as a soloist. She was in early productions of the Eugene's Very Little Theater, but nothing was good enough. They expressed their disappointment in her marrying beneath her station. And to a son of a pioneer who only worked in a 2-room schoolhouse as a teacher and a coach and a principal. And then Grammy told me the good part. She told me that it was in 1932 when she finally found her real purpose in life. She said that when my mother was born, she held her and she looked in her face and she knew. She knew she could love. And she did. And she began a legacy of love. Can you give me a Kleenex? Thank you. All right. Can't read with blurry eyes. She began a legacy of love and nurturing and caring. And she imprinted this into my mother. And my mother learned. And she loved. And not just to her own family. The people who have claimed her as their second mom or other mothers, probably some of you out here, countless. I don't know that we can keep track of all the lives that she's touched. I had a friend in junior high. She was kind of sullen and sad, and she would show up at Mom's house unannounced, sometimes at the oddest times. But Mom always welcomed her. I remember that I was a little miffed with my friend once when she showed up and I was leaving for a babysitting job. And she told me, "Oh, I'm not here for you. I'm here for your mom." They baked cookies together while I was gone. I didn't know until years later, in my adult years, that my friend was beaten and abused at her home. And that the real reason that she wore long sleeves year-round was she was covering the bruises from that abuse. She came to Mom's because there she felt safe and loved. Had we only known. I always thought that there was maybe magic in those warm cookies. But I realized that magic was her love just poured into those cookies. And it was her time with those who ate those cookies. And she may have been known for her cookies, but we know it was more. It was much more than that. Mom may not have had titles or degrees or fame, but she lived with purpose. Faith, hope, love, and the greatest of these is love. And love will leave its mark on the hearts of people. It can change their lives forever. Start a legacy if you don't already have one. People need to be loved. One person can truly make a difference. And Bessie did.
Amen.
We're going to take and maybe share a few other family thoughts here if we haven't already got them in that process. But we want to maybe hear a few words from you as to things that have touched you along the way. One of our daughters wrote this: Grandma Bessie always made you feel special, valued and heard. Special long weekend stays during summer meant a special lunch out at a restaurant on the river with lots of laughter and grown-up girl talk about dreams and life ahead. Backyard tree climbing, watching the birds and all the feeders while cuddling up with her will be memories I treasure. Thankful for all of her prayers and love in my life, from our daughter Heather. I don't know if you guys had some more or if you actually read them in the process, but we wanted to read a couple of these buried in there.
Read that one.
Read that one. Okay. This was from Tom and Terry Moores. It says, Bessie was one of the sweetest people ever. The day we moved to Eugene, our daughter's cat went missing. Bessie was up half the night praying for Ozzie, who was hidden in a closet. Each Christmas, she and Norman would show up with our favorites, so generous and loving. And I'm thinking, so often that's some of the things that we think back on, is the small things done for others in love. So we'd like to, I guess, open it up for some of you to share a brief memory. I was kiddingly going to bring one of those buzzers like you hear at the end of a show. If you go too long, then you get the buzzer. But if you would like to share a thought or something, we'd just like you to maybe stand up where you're at, speak loudly after I get one of the grandchildren up here, and share your name and how you knew Bessie, because there are people here that only sometimes maybe know Rod, or only know Karen, or only know myself, and so that would help them to know who is speaking.
I just wanted to share this thought. It came to mind when Dad was sharing about the water fights. One of the very last times I got to go and see Grandma, it was when the snowstorms had hit, and we were sitting in her room, and I was talking to her about the snow, and I snuck back outside and brought her a snowball fight because she was still a kid at heart and wanted to play in the snow.
Yeah, she did, and some of the staff there were sort of going, what's this on her tray? Luckily, she didn't have enough strength to throw it at him, but she probably would have. So, if you have a thought or a memory you'd like to share, I just ask you to do it where you're at and give us a name and who you are.
I'm Carol Wittenborn, or I grew up Carol Wittenborn. It's not my last name anymore. But next door to these three, and Bessie and Norman, since before I can remember, and have always considered these three people right here my siblings. Because, we were that close. And you just can't say enough wonderful things about Bessie. All I could do while they were speaking was nod my head. Yes, that's true. And like my brother said, Bessie was our other mother. And she was the best other mother I ever had. She gave the best hugs on the planet. The best hugs on the planet. Made the best cookies on the planet. And I was fortunate enough to be able to see her throughout the years. She came to the doctor's offices that I worked at and got to see each other a lot. I think probably the best thing about Bessie is when I had my daughter, my first child, and my husband and I were watching her back and forth, and my parents watched her back and forth, and all of a sudden I needed a babysitter, and I went, who am I going to trust with my daughter? And I went, Bessie. And Bessie watched my daughter for a long time, and that was one of the most special things ever. And I loved her. I will always love her. She will always have a place in my heart, a big place in my heart, and I am going to miss those hugs.
Thank you. Somebody else that has a memory you'd like to share? I know those are hard and sometimes difficult to say, but we'd like to give you at least an opportunity. And if not, we're going to be in the back room a little bit here to share some of those. I'm going to take and pull this up here. We think a lot about Mom, and we think about some of the things that she loved to do, and especially the cookie baking, and sometimes the simpler style of life that we lived. It was before all technology blossomed out, and so things were pretty simple. And I'm going to have my wife come up and read something you've probably heard before, but we thought sort of sounds appropriate in a sense for what Mom has done along the way to keep some things pretty simple. So.
Hated to get up here. I had two special girls sitting next to me. So Mark asked me to read this. Thank you. This is by Robert Fulcum. It's called All I Really Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. All I really need to know about how to live and what to do and how to be, I learned in kindergarten. Wisdom was not at the top of the graduate school mountain, but there in a sand pile at Sunday school. These are the things that I learned. I hope you learned too. Share everything. Play fair. Don't hit people. Put things back where you found them. Clean up your own mess. Don't take things that aren't yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody. Wash your hands before you eat. Flush. Warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. Live a balanced life. Learn some and think some and draw and paint and sing and dance and play and work every day some. Take a nap every afternoon. When you go out into the world, watch out for traffic, hold hands, and stick together. Be aware of wonder. Remember the little seed in the styrofoam cup? The roots go down and the plant goes up, and nobody really knows how or why, but we are all like that. Goldfish and hamsters and white mice, and even the little seed in the styrofoam cup, they all die. So do we. And then remember the Dick and Jane books and the first word you learned? The biggest word of all, look. Everything you need to know is in there somewhere. The golden rule and love and basic sanitation, ecology and politics and equality and sane living. Take any of those items and extrapolate them into sophisticated adult terms and apply it to your family life or your work or your government or your world, and it holds true and clear and firm. Think what a better world it would be if all, the whole world, had cookies and milk about 3 o'clock every afternoon and then lay down with our pinkies for a nap. Or if all governments had a basic policy to always put things back where they found them and to clean up their own messes. And it is still true, no matter how old you are, when you go out into the world, it is best to hold hands and stick together. There's another little poem here that I would like to read, and it talks about how people come into our lives, and it's by Valdia Whedon. Some people come into our lives and quickly go. Some people move our souls to dance. They awaken us to understanding with the passing whisper of their wisdom. Some people make the sky more beautiful to gaze upon. They stay in our lives for a while, leave footprints on our hearts, and we are never, ever the same. And Bessie made our lives better.
We want to share a few words of hope with you, but challenge to all of you at the same time. It didn't take me long to realize that in Texas, a lot of people say y'all. But what a lot of you don't know is if somebody really wants to emphasize something in Texas, they will say, all of y'all. Well, this is for all of y'all. Like Mark mentioned, we knew our mom well. She loved God and she loved people. And she would like to see as many people as possible in heaven with her. So, with that as a backdrop,